But now we are getting into our first segment of the day, and that is the MLB season preview. Like I mentioned, the opening day, first game of the season for 28 of the teams in the MLB. And before we get into all of it, I just want to get ahead of my picks for all of the major awards, for division winners, as well as some wild card teams as well. I guess at the end I'll maybe throw in a little bit of a World Series prediction as well. So we will get into all of that. I wanted to start with some award winners, starting with Rookie of the Year. A handful of really intriguing candidates in. Specifically, I'm more interested in the American League race. I feel like the National League might not be quite as competitive, but the American League, there are tons of top-end players that could end up coming away with this award. My pick for it this season is going to be Evan Carter of the Texas Rangers. Now, one of his own teammates could potentially steal some votes from him, so we will get into that as it comes. But with Carter, he had a tremendous postseason debut for him, where he came up from the minors last season in September, just before the postseason began, and he was a massive piece of that World Series winning Rangers team. He had just 3 more plate appearances in the regular season than he did in the playoffs. 75 in the regular season. It was 72 in the postseason. And he showed poise from the moment that he got there. Reached base in his first 6 plate appearances. That is the second longest streak to begin a postseason career in MLB history. He hit .300 with a .417 on base percentage in the playoffs. I think that Carter is going to continue to build on that and play a very important piece for the Rangers again. Like I sort of alluded to, though, he does have a teammate that could be gunning for the same award as him in Wyatt Langford. He is the betting favorite entering today. This was a bit surprising to me, considering the fact that he was just the 4th overall pick in the 2023 draft, and he's already up here in the majors, the 3rd fastest in terms of minor league experience, 3rd fastest player in MLB history to make their professional debut. But at the same time, it shouldn't be all that surprising, considering the fact that, for starters, Langford is actually older than Carter, so you got to keep that in mind. But his meteoric rise has come because of how much of a dominant hitter he's been at every level, really in his career, even dating back to college when he was at Florida. And during spring training, he put on a show. He was first in the entire league in hits, total bases, and RBIs. He also hit 6 home runs, including a grand slam. So Langford should be an electric addition to the Rangers this season. And he's coming into a situation where the Rangers are going to be looking to defend their World Series run from last year. I'm curious how long the leash is going to be with him. Again, the thing is with him, it is the bat. And as long as that's going well, he's going to be getting playing time with the Rangers this season. But he's going to be in a new position defensively. He came in, he was, I believe, primarily a catcher when he was at the University of Florida, played some third base as well, but based off of the fact that the Rangers and Bochy really want him to be a part of this team, which is what Bochy told Langford heading into this season, they're currently putting him in left field. You're going to see how this works. It's not super uncommon to have these top prospects, just take on a role in the outfield. I'm blanking on his name, but I believe it was the Pirates rookie that they just brought up, who was a catcher in college, and he ended up playing the field for them. Totally blanking on it. That's a bad job on my part. But again, historically, this isn't all too unprecedented. So we'll see what happens with Langford. I'm really looking forward to seeing how he can produce, because last year I started to get into college baseball in a way that I hadn't in the past, and he was really encouraging. And the fact that he's already going to be on the field for a contending team in the Rangers should be a lot of fun to watch. The reason why I do have both of these players ahead of Jackson Holliday is partially, in fact, due to the fact that Holliday is going to be starting the season in the minors. Carter and Langford are going to get a little bit of a head start, and I think that that'll play a role when this is all said and done. In the National League, I do have Yoshinobu Yamamoto. It's hard to go away from a more experienced international player who has some seasons in Japan before coming over and signing a $325 million contract. I am not overreacting to his start last week against the Padres, where he only lasted one inning and really struggled with his control. It's not that I even thought that the Padres were seeing him well. It was just the fact that his control was all over the place. That's very unlike him, and I do think that he's going to be able to settle in very shortly. There's a chance he gets Cy Young votes. I think it'll be really hard for anybody to overtake him in that sense. But moving on to Cy Young, speaking of that, in the American League, I have Luis Castillo. He's been incredibly reliable the past few years. He has 2 straight All-Star appearances under his belt. He's started 33 games in 2 of the past 3 seasons, has just been absolutely sturdy for whatever organization he plays for. He's got powerful fastballs and a great changeup as well, a nice arsenal to his game. He had a 3.34 ERA last season with 219 strikeouts. He's an incredibly solid player, and the Mariners are hopefully looking to take a step in the right direction this season. They were hovering in the realm of playoff contention last year. They just couldn't quite finish out the season strong enough after putting themselves in a little bit of a deficit to begin the year. But they have an incredible rotation, which should help them in that sense, push them into the forefront of the playoff hunt. I think Castillo has a very good shot. But as I was mentioning as well, the fact that they have such a good rotation, George Kirby on the Mariners as well does have a very solid case for Cy Young as well. These are 2 of the top players in terms of odds in the American League. And that's also partially due to the fact that we're seeing Garrett Cole miss a start for the first time to a non-COVID related issue since 2016. He's been lights out. Of course, one of the staples of pitching in the MLB for the past handful of years. And as it currently stands, he's dealing with an elbow injury that is supposed to keep him out until mid-April. We'll have updates on that. But I do think that that is going to hurt him, and the fact that he isn't going to be out there in the opening set of games allows some of these other pitchers to make a name for themselves. Kevin Gausman and Corbin Burns are the other prominent names at the top of the betting odds for this that can definitely make an argument for either one of them as well. I do think that Cole Reagan sort of intrigues me as somebody who dark horse is maybe even... If I had said this a month or so ago, it would have flew a little bit more as a dark horse, but he's been rapidly climbing up the odds for this award. He was plus 2,800 on DraftKings in late February, and he's now plus 900. He had an incredible end to the season last year where the Rangers had him coming out of the bullpen. He wasn't really working out for them. He gets traded to the Royals, becomes their starter, and was lights out for them. Could play a big role in the Royals taking a step in the right direction this year. He pitched 12 games, started all 12, had a 2.64 ERA with the Royals and a 2.49 FIP. Pitched at least 5 innings in each outing and had multiple 11 strikeout games. So he is somebody, again, if you want to attach the dark horse label to him or not, you maybe can, but somebody I'm also keeping an eye on as well. In the National League, I have Logan Webb winning the NL Cy Young. He was the runner-up last season, ground ball pitcher with an improved defense that should make for some more dominant starts in my eyes in terms of, getting that ERA down a little bit more and having maybe some more staple wins to his resume as well. He's also, of course, no slouch in striking guys out, finished top 20 in the MLB in that category last year, led the league in innings pitched and pitched a 3.25 ERA. The Giants did just add Blake Snell. Could that end up stealing some votes from him? Not totally sure. A little bit of a similar case to the Seattle situation in the American League. I don't think that MLB award voters necessarily weigh that too heavily, but is at least something to consider heading into this season, that is. And the number one name that a lot of people are pointing to is, of course, Spencer Strider, who is a phenomenal pitcher, led the league in strikeouts last season very convincingly. He's just 17 short of reaching 500 through his career, would be the fastest. He's basically set to be the fastest pitcher to ever reach that mark in MLB history. He's supposedly added a curveball to his arsenal as well. I think he's going to have a great season and be getting votes, but it's going to be interesting to see because last year, 3.86 ERA, which is good, but wasn't good enough. And the fact that he had, 281 strikeouts. I know that wins aren't necessarily a big time stat for Cy Young voters either, but 20 wins, 281 strikeouts, a sub-4 ERA. That didn't even get him in the top 3 of Cy Young voting. I think it's probably going to have to be a drastic increase or improvement, I should say, in his ERA to give him that award. But it is a very interesting conversation surrounding him because we know that he is one of the best pitchers in the National League, in the MLB as a whole, and ultimately he has a great shot and he's going to receive votes, but is he going to be able to ultimately bring home the award? We will see. Moving on to the MVP in the American League, I feel like this is a pretty hard award to really judge here. I'm going to go with Julio Rodriguez. He was tremendous last season, had one of the most memorable stretches of the year with the Mariners coming out of the All-Star break. And again, I think more eyes are going to be on the Mariners this season. Julio is one of the most exciting players in the MLB. You have other people, the Yankees and Aaron Judge and Juan Soto, who are right up there in terms of odds as well. Judge, I guess we'll have to see how he really recovers from this injury that he was dealing with last year. We saw him, and obviously we are a handful of months past it now, and he should be, I have no worries about his bat whatsoever, but is he going to be able to give production in the field? On the base paths, he really struggled when he was coming back from injury as well, so we will see there. Juan Soto, I think, has a lot of storylines that can sort of support him as well, but I'm not the biggest believer in the Yankees this season either. Not that team success has a big deal in terms of, MLB voting for MLB voting for MVP, but at the same time, the Soto storylines can also be undermined by the team a little bit in that sense. I'm going to go with Julio Rodriguez. Bobby Witt Jr. could be a very interesting dark horse candidate as well. In the National League, I don't feel great about this pick, but I feel like there's a lot of really good candidates at the top here. I decided to go with Corbin Carroll, who's coming off of a Rookie of the Year season. A tremendous postseason, was a massive part in the Diamondbacks making it to the World Series. He batted .285 last season, had a .362 on base percentage, .868 OPS. He's one of the most dangerous players on the base paths in the league. think that is going to come into play again this season. He was top 5 in MVP voting last year, so I don't think it is totally outlandish. And I think that the overall value that he can give in really all aspects of the game is going to help lead him to a MVP caliber season. At least he's a little bit of a long shot as well, but he is who I decided to go with for this award. You obviously have the likes of Ronald Acuna Jr., who is the favorite for good reason. If I were to have to pick a second candidate, I would go with Acuna in this case. I'm very intrigued by, of course, the Dodgers on the list here. Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, and Freddie Freeman. Ohtani isn't going to be pitching this season. We'll see how the rest of the off-the-field stuff sort of pans out for him. But assuming he plays the full year, we know how dominant of a hitter he is, and potentially we could see him make a case for himself, but the lack of having a two-way ability for this season could hurt him there. Mookie Betts is another one that I'm very interested in because of the fact that we are seeing him playing a shortstop position that's new to him, which could either skyrocket his odds to win the award or sort of be the demise of it. Is he going to be able to keep up the level of offensive production at this new position that carries a larger load? If he does play well at shortstop, I think he has a tremendous case showing that he's one of really the all-time athletes in the MLB, where he's won however many gold gloves he has in the outfield, played a solid second base for them last year. If he can move over to shortstop here, it would be an incredible run for him. But if he struggles defensively, or if it sort of trickles over to his offensive game, I think that could also hurt him as well. Went a little long on these awards here, so we're going to run through these division winners and wildcard teams a little bit quicker. In the AL East, I have the Orioles, just an extremely talented team all around, tons of youth talent that should continue to develop. Adley Rutschman is somebody who I didn't mention for MVP conversation, but there's a chance he could. Doesn't typically happen for catchers, but he is definitely in that conversation as well. They could really use a step in the right direction for Grayson Rodriguez. I haven't been the highest on him. I feel like the level of excitement surrounding him maybe precedes the level of production he's given so far, but he's still young, so give him time. Yankees are tied for odds on DraftKings. I just don't think that they have the depth. We'll see how their pitching is able to hold up. Rodon and Cortez had some down years last year. They're going to be out without Garrett Cole for the beginning of the season. We'll see how they're able to perform then. I think if, like we saw last year, if Judge were to go down, I do really worry about whether or not they have other players that can step up. AL Central, I went with the Guardians in this situation. I was looking at my picks. I made all my picks and then went back and looked at it. I had a lot of chalk, so this is the one where I sort of wanted to go out on a limb a little bit more. I feel like the Central Division in both the AL and the NL are where you can sort of afford to take a gamble on a winner here. The Guardians have one of the top rotations in the American League. Their offense is still a little bit of a question mark, but again, it's not the best division in the league as well. I do think that it's going to be improved from last year, but we shall see. AL West, I have the Astros. You just can't bet against them. There are plenty of talented other teams in the American League West with the Rangers and Mariners as well. I wanted to take the Mariners, but Astros have won the division in 6 of the past 7 seasons. The only time they didn't was the 2020 shortened COVID season, so had to go with the Astros on this one. My wild card teams I have are the Mariners, Rangers, and Twins. Feel like I could be hurting myself not taking another AL East team. There's definitely a chance with a couple of those. I think the Rays are actually sneaky. A lot of people are out on them, but we've seen in the past the way that they just sort of manage around the lines and are able to get themselves into some successful seasons. The rotations the starting rotation is definitely going to take a step back, but we will see what comes out of the American League. Moving on to the National League here, I have the Braves and the Dodgers are the obvious picks for the East and the West, respectively. Feel like it's really hard to go against either one of those. There are some talented teams in the West, and even the Phillies in the East could potentially put up a fight, but I mean, these are the two juggernauts of the National League. I had a hard time picking against them. I also went with the Cubs in the Central. Cardinals have a really good argument as well, but wildcard teams, I decided to go with the Phillies, the Giants, and the Diamondbacks. So let me know what you guys think in terms of who you have coming out of the division and for each of these awards. I almost forgot, almost let myself off the hook. I guess I should probably make a World Series prediction. I hadn't even really thought about it until right before we hopped on the live stream. I guess if I were going to have to pick a World Series matchup, I'd go with the Braves from the National League, and I think I'm going to have to go with the Astros as well. It's just one of those situations where I have a really hard time betting against the Astros. Now, the Orioles are a very intriguing team as well, and as we've seen from the MLB, especially last year, sometimes it can be these unexpected teams that get hot at the right time. So, again, a little chalky. I apologize, but let me know what sort of underdogs or long shot bets that you guys think could end up being some winners this upcoming season. But on that note, we're going to be taking our first break of the show. When we come back on the other side, we're going to be making some picks for the Sweet 16 matchups that tip off tonight. So stick with us and we will be right back.